lovely colouring friends, my name's Amanda and this is my channel Amanda Colours. I have such an exciting video for you today. In the Amanda Colours 2025 colouring planner, which you can still get on Amazon, our feature artist for January is Jen Racine, and so I had the exciting opportunity to have a chat with Jen all about her artwork and how she goes about creating colouring pages for us to enjoy. So I hope that you do enjoy this video. Maybe grab your colouring planner, open to the January page and colour along while you listen to Jen and I have a great chat. I guess we could just start at the beginning, and I'm really interested to know what inspired you to start creating colouring books, and I guess how you have developed your own style.
That is a really good question. So I have an art background. So I got an art degree early, like a sort of it's kind of a useless major, but it not completely useless for people in the field, but art history. And then I did studio art, and then I graduated college and was like, I don't know what to do. And so I went the graphic design path. But I always did sort of there's like heavy illustration plus graphic design, kind of the two married together. Um, but I'm definitely like I kind of got into design at the cusp of people leaving sort of the analog, and doing digital work.
Yeah.
So I felt very comfortable with the computer for a long time, but then also did drawing. So yeah, I think my first book, I think, was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was my husband is a writer, and so he was experimenting with doing some self-publishing. And
Okay.
so he sort of I kind of knew what Amazon was and like what people were doing, but I didn't put those two things together for a
Mm.
while. And then um, then I was poking around. I was like, oh, wait a second, people are making coloring books. Is this possible? But I was also running my own graphic design business at the time. And
Mhm.
then just family stuff. I was like, I can't be beholden to the uh, client having deadlines and clients and
Yeah,
things like that was not feasible at that time for me. So I
I
thought,
understand that. I'm actually a
fine.
graphic designer as well, so
Oh,
I
okay. The
yeah,
organization makes
yeah.
sense then. Yeah. Um, well, you kind of you gotta you gotta know how to organize your files, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I just experimented with like a first book. I think my first book was my llamas book.
Hmm.
And I think I just hit it at that time when it was like llamas were becoming very popular. And so
Yeah.
the book was really successful, even though like it's not the best designed book, but it was, I just kind of I was like, oh, this is something that I actually could do if I develop this more as a skill. So that was my beginning.
Yeah.
In terms of style, that's a tough one because I think my um I I feel like I'm like right now developing a more consistent style. But I
Mhm.
feel like in the early days, I feel like the more you draw, the more your style you can develop like sort of more focused style. But
Mhm.
it takes a while. And so I feel like style also evolves a little bit. So I'm kind of curious, like, I can feel myself going into more a consistent stylistic direction, but I still also do like, I'll try and do something that's really simple and then I'll do something more complicated. So, like, for example, this year, I've kind of set my intention to kind of get away from the more simple stuff and to do something a little bit more detailed.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
So I guess my answer to that question is that style evolves. It is an evolving
Yeah.
uh, thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's part of the creative nature in that
Mm,
we tend to not, yes, we have our own style, but we tend to not just stick to the one thing for our whole lives because we have
right.
creative brains, so we're wanting to
Yeah.
explore and
Yeah.
challenge ourselves and yeah, see what else is
Yeah.
out
I
there.
think like also like tradition, there are people who are really successful traditional illustrators, and they have to stick to a very consistent
Hmm.
style in order to, because that's what they're selling to like
Yeah.
magazines, different publications, different, like if you're a children's book author, people are buying your style.
Hmm.
And I feel really lucky because I don't have to do that. I can experiment with different things. And so it
Yeah.
gives me a lot of freedom. So
Yeah.
I think of it as a plus, I
Yeah,
guess.
no, for sure. And that kind of leads into my next question about how you choose your themes. So you were mentioning before
Yeah.
about the llama book, and it was kind of good
That was
timing
totally
because llamas were
random.
everywhere.
Yeah. I
Um,
really, I
yeah,
really should do more market research. I kind of don't. I just I have so many interests. It's kind of a problem. And yeah, I'll get an idea. I have lists of ideas, and
hmm,
then I'll just start narrowing stuff down, or I'll run them by my family, and they'll be like, "No, no one's going to buy that. It's too niche,"
yeah.
Or so that's I don't know. It sometimes I think I my stuff it gets a little too abstract, and then like my husband will be like, "How am I supposed to market that? No one's gonna find it."
Well, something
So,
I really love about your work is that it isn't the same as everything else that's out there. Um,
thank you.
you kind of I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but it's like one illustrator puts out a book and then within 2 weeks there's 50 almost
Yeah,
identical. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, it's something that, well, partly I've been really drawn to your work because I've just always loved the Scandinavian style.
Oh, yeah.
I have no ties to Scandinavia, but I'm fascinated by the culture and the
It's
design and all of that.
beautiful. I know,
Yeah.
I love it too. I have some ties to it, so and I've looked at it a lot, but thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's actually refreshing that,
Oh,
maybe your lack of market research is actually
yeah.
a good thing.
Well, I found
Mm.
it's tricky on Amazon, and I think you're right. That is happening more and more. So I have to be kind of careful. Like I wish like on my social media, I would love to like post everything that I'm working on every day, but I'm always like, maybe this is like kind of a good idea. Maybe
Yeah,
somebody's gonna snatch it.
yeah.
But I don't know if I should worry about that. It's kind of silly, but that like yeah, it's and that's one of the things with the AI stuff is like if you do have a really good idea that's kind of original, I mean, I think that your work will stand out because you're doing it from your brain and it's never gonna like they're never gonna be able to copy
No.
the artistry. Do you know what I mean? Like AI
Yeah.
is just not there yet. And I don't know if it ever will be, honestly, but they can do like a close enough they can take that original idea that you had and like do their version of it. And sometimes that can be enough to kind of like make people confused about who had the idea first,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah,
is kind of a bummer.
it is.
But I don't know. I just have to hope that like people can know what real drawing is
Hmm.
versus I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
It's
I
tricky.
think as,
I'm very torn right now about the whole
yeah,
thing.
I think as we are exposed more to AI artwork, we're
Mm,
becoming more able to distinguish between the two. I
yeah.
know when AI coloring books first started coming out, I had a lot of trouble working out,
Mhm.
well, is this real?
Yeah, right,
Like, is it
right?
hand drawn or is it computer
Yeah,
generated? But there are definitely ways to start to tell as you
yeah.
get used to it, particularly hands. AI doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be able to do hands properly for some
Animals,
reason.
if they have too many legs,
Yes. Yeah.
it's a dead giveaway.
Yeah. So I'm interested to find out what your creative process is. Um do you kind of start hand sketching on paper first, or do you go straight into digital?
Yeah, I'm pretty old school. Like I'll have an idea And then I'll do like a bunch of little thumbnails to make sure that I have enough in my brain that can make a like a whole collection. And then I actually did pull out it's really a mess. I do these kind of I'll then take the thumbnail and I use tracing paper. This is
Mhm.
really old fashioned. Um, so I don't go as I think there's some people who go more detailed than me, but I'll
Mhm.
do like kind of a rough, a pencil rough, and then I'll take a picture of this, and then I will bring it into Procreate or
Mhm.
Illustrator, and then I'll start kind of fleshing it out as like a real drawing.
Yeah.
So
And do you
that's my
prefer
process.
Illustrator or Procreate? Do you have a preference?
I'm kind of doing, but I mean, I'm an illustrator person, like coming from
Yeah.
graphic design. So I'm like feel pretty comfortable, but I am trying to do Procreate more. I
Mhm.
just find that it's an amazing program. But it's like once you commit to a line, that's it. And I love
Mhm.
with Illustrator that I can go back and like do really subtle
Yeah.
adjustments and keep a very clean line.
Mhm.
So it just depends. I think I'm going to try and do a little bit more Procreate. I just kind of try and dial that in a little bit more because I think it's possible to do clean line drawing and Procreate, but I just have to make sure that my the resolution is really high
Mhm.
and so when it prints really cleanly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Illustrator kind of progressing to Procreate, I think, as a lot of illustration folks are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as the technology progresses and
Mhm.
it gets better and better. But it's a pretty powerful program, the Procreate. So,
Yeah, I've only played with it a very little bit, but what I have used, I'm pretty impressed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it makes you can draw a line more intuitively than
Mhm.
it's like drawing on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So,
it is. So what are some of the challenges you face with illustrating for coloring books?
I think one of the difficulties is I want to make sure that I don't get too tight with my lines
Hmm.
because I find when I color, if things get too tiny or going in too fine of a point, then it's really hard to keep things clean.
Hmm.
So I've learned a lot by coloring my own work. I have to say
Mm.
that's like the number one thing to that you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is actually not enjoyable if this
Hmm.
fern goes into this like it's too overlapping or there's too many shapes that are
Yep.
coming together and you don't want to and like creating weird negative spaces.
Yeah.
If does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does.
Like, yeah. So I just want to, I'm trying hard to keep things so there's blocks of shapes with not too many overlapping lines.
Mm.
I think that
That's
is the, yeah.
yeah, that's really good. And it makes your illustrations uh more flexible in what can be used to color them. So
Hmm.
particularly
Right.
alcohol markers are notorious for bleeding and you can't really get down into fine spaces. So
Right.
it's really cool that you have that in mind while you're illustrating.
Yeah, I do. Well, and also like adding texture. Texture can look amazing, but it's like if
Mm.
you have too many lines in that drawing, and then you try and use I mean I love alcohol markers, but I really love colored pencils
Mhm.
and with the blending I like the way that looks. I think it's beautiful
Yeah.
and the color saturation you can get by building layers of colored pencil I think is really
Hmm.
beautiful, but if you have too many lines that are textural within the it just like you're coloring over them and it just doesn't
Mm.
look good.
Mm.
So
Yeah. No, I
I
think it's
can
really cool that you're mindful of all of that
yeah.
while you're illustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I try to be.
Yeah. So, what do you hope people feel or experience when they're coloring your work?
Um, I think, um, I think it's definitely true that there's a sense of calm. I mean, that's like no, I think there's science behind that. That we spend a lot of times, I mean, most people spend a lot of digital time. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm guilty too,
Mm-hmm.
but having real paper, pen, pencil, maybe I love listening to audiobooks. I find that very relaxing, but like the brain hand connection with a nice calming audio input of
Mm-hmm.
some kind, I think is like that's heaven. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time in that zone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's a sort of cliche, but it is calm, so
it is. And you're right, I can't actually remember what the science is, but I actually did a video probably a couple of years ago now about the science behind coloring and why we're kind of drawn to it and the benefits that we
Mhm.
actually experience from it. I need to go back and look at that because I can't remember what they were, but
It's all the good stuff. It's all
yeah, it is. It's really good stuff. So do you have a favorite book or a favorite illustration?
um that's a hard question. I do have some favorites. I feel like some of my Scandinavian, the really nicely tight um sort of Scandi, like some a couple of things from that are birds, from my Modern Cottage Bird book.
Mm-hmm.
I really, or no, sorry, it's folk art birds. I think I really love those. I have this book doesn't sell very well. I really love my tea
Mm-hmm.
colored pages. I think there's a couple of those that like this matcha tea. I come back to that one over and over again.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's partly because I love Japan, like completely
Yeah.
obsessed with Japan. So that some of that, yeah.
We have a lot of
A couple
similarities.
snail
I really,
pages. I like my bugs. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I can't pick.
yeah. I really love Japanese things as well. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why I'm so
Yeah.
drawn to your artwork.
Yeah, it seeps in there in
Yeah.
some way, so.
Yeah. So, what has been some of the most surprising or rewarding feedback that you've actually received from people who color your work?
Um, yeah, I sometimes I don't look at the Amazon reviews, but I do when I actually I've had a couple DMs from some people who and this is always so nice if somebody's like going through like some sort of difficult moment, and they tell me that they've gotten one of my coloring books and it's like sort of helped them through that.
Mm.
I find that like the most like sort of heartwarming.
Yeah.
Um, that's just really sweet. Yeah, I think that I love if anybody emails me or wants to talk about stuff. I always try and respond to anybody who takes a moment to reach out because I know that that's like, I mean, I feel very honored.
Mm.
If somebody takes the time out of their day to drop me a little message, like
Yeah,
that's so nice.
it is.
So,
It's lovely.
good or bad, like I'll take back, feedback
Yeah.
that, oh, I didn't like this or this wasn't successful or don't do this. Sometimes I get like, I used to do doubles of in my books. I try not to do that now. And some people got a lot of messages from people saying don't do doubles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's basically what I can remember.
Yeah. That's lovely. How do you keep, you know, your ideas fresh and uh um yeah, keep coming up with
Yes.
new ideas?
So I have so many ideas that is actually a problem for me. So to narrow down, I sometimes have
Hmm.
to just focus. But because I do have to think about like, well, okay, this is a kind of fun idea, but people actually want to color, what would they buy? Because I have the end of the day, I do like I have to sell books to keep
Yeah.
doing this. So yeah, I don't know. I try I think what I was doing last year is I kind of tried to do some collections and like I rehashed some stuff,
Hmm.
but I find actually that wasn't, I think it's better to just try something fresh,
Hmm.
but with an element of something that somebody can like, um, that is familiar, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's cats, but they're doing, you know, wearing a certain kind of clothes or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So like but like it's, you know, it's sort of marrying those two things, birds, but in trees, or you know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Sometimes though, I think it's maybe better just to like do something totally random. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a little on the fence on that, on what is the best path. Something AI would never come up with, do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good tip actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's really tricky because the Amazon market is 10 years ago it was a lot easier to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you were producing something that was good, you know, people would see it. But now it's like you're trying to, I think my work is actually better, but it's harder to be seen because there's just so many books.
Yeah.
So if somebody goes on Amazon and they're looking for a topic and they're going to get like a million books. But then if you do something that's too far afield, then they're never going to see it because
Mm.
they'll never think to look for it.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's where things like YouTube can come in handy because I have discovered so many illustrators through seeing what other people have colored and what other
mm,
people have purchased, um, that I would never have discovered otherwise because the Amazon market and is so saturated. And here in Australia, we don't really have many places to go to buy um, coloring books that aren't just mass produced,
right.
mass published,
Yeah.
no name illustrator kind of books.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's been really helpful for me in finding great illustrators.
That is a really, I'm glad you brought that up because I started a YouTube channel, but I did not put effort into it like a couple years ago. And I think that it would be really beneficial for me maybe to do some actually in person, like flip throughs or something. Because yeah, it's just hard to,
Yeah,
and YouTube, it's, well, TikTok's going away, and I feel like that's not really my people.
yeah. I've been trying to get into making TikTok content, but yeah, I watch
Instagram's
it a lot,
great,
but
but yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, um, thank you. Yeah, it's good. I need to ponder these things a little bit more and
yeah,
think about different ways to be seen.
yep.
So that's why I appreciate this so much.
No, you're welcome. What are some of, you've mentioned Scandinavian style, Japanese style, but what are some of the biggest influences that you find both for yourself as a person, but also for your art?
Hmm. Um, it's this also cliche, the old standby of like nature themes. I mean, there's just no shortage of
Yeah,
beauty, you know, in the natural world. So, and it's just like that perfect marriage of wanting to draw some or color something calming. I mean, it's just a natural fit. Um, so I still like, I look at a lot of all kinds of art, all kinds of illustration. Just being like, I find going to museums really important, like for my soul.
yeah,
Just to, and I really love, like random stuff like pottery and textiles are super, like textiles especially. I really love looking at, uh, sewn fabric, but textile design, I think is really, really beautiful. Very
Mm,
much interests me. I don't know. There's so ideas come from everywhere, right? Like reading the
yeah.
newspaper.
Yeah.
And there's just so much illustration in the world. And it's like, I just like sometimes I get a little overwhelmed. I'm like taking it all in and like, oh, I wouldn't use this, but like I love it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, but I love this.
Yeah.
So I think that just the more you look and then filtering through your own brain and it comes out of your hand in some way.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree more. I
yeah.
I feel the same with um I don't know, I guess having been a graphic designer for such a long time, I have just developed this critical eye of everywhere I go, everything I do, I'm just constantly taking in
Yeah.
inspiration and, oh, I might not have done it that way, or wow,
Yeah.
that's a really clever way to do that. And
Yeah.
I think that kind of filters through in any way that you express your creativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see a beautiful color palette in,
Hmm.
in a label, and go,
Yeah.
oh, really, I'm going to use that somewhere. So,
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And so what do you do? What does Jen do when she's not drawing? What else fills your soul?
oh, Jen does so many things. So yeah, I'm home a lot. I have a young adult son who I'm home with a lot. He's attempting to be a writer, so I'm sort of his support person
Yeah.
for that. And then I have a daughter who's almost 20 who's in college. So I'm also support, but from further away. So I have a husband, my writer husband, and so I help him a lot with his books and things like that. And I try and do a little painting. I try and exercise because I do sit a lot.
Hmm.
So I try and incorporate some movement, some body movement during my day so that I'm
Yeah.
not like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna find someday I'm just gonna be like this,
Yeah.
frozen.
Stuck in
So
that position.
yeah, completely stuck with a pencil in my hand. Um, yeah, that's it. I love to cook
Mhm.
too, kind of into food. Yeah,
Yeah.
just sort of normal, kind of, I don't know. I call myself a normal person, but what is that
Yeah. What is
really?
normal? No, that's really good. It's been really lovely chatting with you and getting to know you a bit more and hearing about your art. And yeah, I
Yeah,
hope that it
likewise.
helps my viewers be able to get to know you and maybe fall in love with your art a bit more like I have. So,
Thank
um,
you so much. I
yeah,
really, really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you and your people, and it's really
yeah,
fun.
it's my absolute pleasure. So that was my chat with Jen. Isn't she just lovely? I really, really enjoyed chatting with her. Yeah, don't forget to grab your planner. And this is Jen's beautiful exclusive page just for those of us who have the planner that we can colour in January. And Jen has also released a brand new colouring book called Pop Art Palentines, and it's just adorable. And with my theme for the Palentine's Day, a buddy colour, I just thought, how perfect. And Jen shared with me that she and her kids growing up preferred the idea of celebrating friends rather than the idea of the traditional Valentine's Day. So it's such a fun book, super simple, beautiful illustrations, perfect for alcohol markers, and just a whole lot of fun for Valentine's Day. So make sure you check that out. Links to that and to Jen's Amazon page will be down in the description. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.